Well, first off, most of you know today is Ruth's birthday. So, first off, happy birthday to Ruth Stackhouse, surrounding us today in spirit. I'm sure she's dancing. Ruth Stackhouse, co-founder of the Friendly Spike Theater Band, I truly believe would be thrilled to see us all together today and bring her vision alive because she was very adamant about this event happening. Join me in singing happy birthday. You can stay muted. I'm going to show a couple of videos. And as Ruth always said, host an event on your birthday and you'll be sure people will show up. Just going to share my screen. And I'm also going to share my sounds. It's always needed. All right, here we go.
Happy birthday, dear Ruth. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, dear Ruth. Happy birthday, dear Ruth. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, dear Ruth.
Excellent. And we have our next birthday from some jazz boys.
Hey kid, I hear it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday! Hey.
Excellent. All right. A nice little jam there too. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And you know, it's a very special day. I believe Ruth would have been 67, if I'm correct. Supporting each other is a necessary aspect of our lives. Calling a friend, family member, spouse, or having an organization that supports the collective we are in together. Tonight, I wish for everyone to feel connected and a sense of relief that mental health is relevant and everyone needs support, and that Friendly Spike is still here for you, and the future will be bright if we keep standing together. On behalf of the Friendly Spike Theater Band, I present to you Celebration of MadPride 2024. My name is Sarah Wells, and I will be your host this evening. As many of you know, Ruth served over a 30-plus year trajectory with Friendly Spike and was very involved in the community. One of the originals to express self-awareness and compassion for those in the psychiatric world. There is an answer for the darkest times, and this is evident through the work Ruth was creating all of these years, especially through the way she created accessibility. There is hope and there is power in community and peer support. I would like to thank everyone for being here and present tonight and taking the time to be together to hear our featured guests and their extremely powerful stories tonight. Our first guest of the evening is incredible David W. Oakes, the nonviolent revolutionary psychiatric survivor. David Oakes has been a psychiatric survivor, community organizer, and human rights activist since 1976. While he was in college, David was placed in psychiatric institutions 5 times, where he experienced forced psychiatric drugging and solitary confinement. David found mental and emotional recovery through family, peer support, advocacy, nutrition, exercise, counseling, wilderness, protest, employment, avoiding drugs, and more. In 1977, he graduated from Harvard with honors and chose to be off of all psychiatric drugs. December 2012, David experienced a severe accident. He fell from a ladder, broke his neck, and became a quadriplegic with a disabled voice using a power chair. Applying decades of lived experience with disability community organizing, David continued to be active for social change. He launched a green disability consulting business called Achu. He helped start the nonprofit that became Mind Freedom International, which is one of the main independent human rights coalitions in the mental health field. Started and coordinates a Facebook group of 300 for mental health justice. Launched a LinkedIn group, Mind Justice, has won several awards, and continues to receive recognition even after his profound disabilities. David now lives with his wife, Deborah, in Eugene, Oregon, where he is an activist for a nonviolent revolution, not only in mental health, but in addressing the climate crisis. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to David W. Oakes. Oh, you're muted, David. Oh, there we go.
Sarah, thank you.
Thank you,
Sarah
Sarah. Thank you,
Wells.
Sarah Wells.
One wonderful things about organizing in our field
One of the things about organizing in our field, the wonderful things,
is making new friends like you, Sarah.
is making new friends like you, Sarah.
My lovely, amazing wife, Deborah, will repeat me.
My lovely, amazing wife, Deborah, will repeat me.
And yeah, I'd like to thank everyone who's watching live,
I'd like to thank everyone who's watching live,
and we'll watch this later as a recording.
and will watch this later as a recording.
You folks are my life.
You folks are my life.
After my wonderful wife, Deborah,
After my wonderful wife, Deborah,
the psychiatric survivor movement has been my life.
the psychiatric survivor movement has been my life.
Happy MadPride, everyone.
Happy MadPride, everyone.
I'm a psychiatric survivor,
I'm a psychiatric survivor,
and I love you all.
and I love you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
The last words from Ruth to me
The last words from Ruth to me
was signing off.
was signing off,
Love and gratitude.
love and gratitude.
She was thanking me for sponsoring a movie or gratitude
She was thanking me for sponsoring the movie Gratitude
here in Eugene, Oregon.
here in Eugene, Oregon.
But love and gratitude is perfect.
But love and gratitude is perfect.
We want a mad pride revolution of love and gratitude.
We want a mad pride revolution of love and gratitude.
Right. I've heard about Friendly Spike Theater Band,
For decades, I've heard about Friendly Spike Theater Band.
and Toronto, you have really helped lead the way on MadPride
And Toronto, you have really helped lead the way on MadPride
for decades.
for decades.
So next slide.
So next slide.
I took one image,
I took one image,
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
They hold an annual event
They hold an annual event
with thousands,
with thousands.
but since the 1990s,
But since the 1990s,
there have been MadPride events
there have been MadPride events
in Canada,
Canada,
England,
in England,
USA, Mexico,
Mexico,
South Korea,
South Korea, Ireland,
Ireland, of course,
Ireland,
Ireland, John McCarthy,
John McCarthy,
Ghana, Africa.
Ghana, Africa.
There have been MadPride events all over the world.
There have been MadPride events all over the world.
Though Ghana says the leaders prefer mental health advocacy
Though Ghana said the leaders prefer mental health advocacy to the word MadPride.
Really, that's what I'm talking about today.
And that's really what I'm talking about today.
Building bridges.
Building bridges.
And next slide.
Next slide.
So, every July is Disability Pride Month.
Is Disability Pride Month.
And it's very popular.
It's very popular.
All over the globe.
All over the globe.
Our Oregon group
Our Oregon group
has declared July to be MadPride Month.
Our Oregon group has declared July to be MadPride Month.
Our movement has used July 14 for decades.
Our movement has used a July 14th for decades.
Bastille Day.
Bastille Day.
This Sunday. But we found many connections with July.
But we found many connections with July.
So let's connect with Disability Pride.
So let's connect with Disability Pride.
To support MadPride.
To support MadPride.
Next,
please.
let me mention something about language.
Let me mention something about language.
Yes, I'm a mental health consumer.
Yes, I'm a mental health consumer.
I use a licensed counselor.
I use a licensed counselor
For a decade.
for a decade.
I mean, I'm a psychiatric survivor.
I'm a psychiatric survivor
Because I experienced abuse from mental health.
because I experienced abuse from mental health.
So many of us call this the CS movement.
So many of us call this the CS movement,
Consumer survivor.
consumer survivor.
I would just ask one thing.
I would just ask one thing.
If you call yourself mentally ill,
If you call yourself mentally ill,
that's totally okay.
that's totally okay.
But please do not call me mentally ill.
But please do not call me mentally ill.
Check with a person first.
Check with a person first.
Why?
Why?
Because the term feeds the medical model.
Because the term feeds the medical model.
And right now, that's a bully in the room.
And right now, that's the bully in the room.
Do not feed the bully.
Do not feed the bully.
So you can call yourself whatever you wish.
So you can call yourself whatever you wish,
Not me.
but not me.
Now we use live the experience
Now we use the term lived experience
or peer support specialist
or peer support specialist.
many other words.
Many other words.
Our MadPride movement.
for our MadPride movement.
Next, Sarah.
Next, please.
Who am I?
Who am I?
Well, aside from a psych survivor,
Aside from a psych survivor,
48 years as an activist.
48 years as an activist,
And yes, 11, 12 years ago, actually, I became a quadriplegic.
and yes, 11 or 12 years ago, actually, I became a quadriplegic.
So I'm a poster boy for physical disability.
So I'm a poster boy for physical disability, and I work on it.
But my heart started with being a psych survivor.
But my heart was starting as a psych survivor,
And I always will be.
and I always will be.
And I've called for a nonviolent revolution all these years.
And I've called for a nonviolent revolution all these years,
Not alone.
and we're not alone.
Next.
Next, please.
So I use the term mind justice.
So I used the term mind justice.
You might have heard of disability justice.
You might have heard of disability justice
Or climate justice.
or climate justice.
Well, let's have mind justice.
Well, let's have mind justice.
Any of us were targeted because of our minds,
For any of us who are targeted because of our minds,
whether or not you accept your diagnosis,
whether or not you accept a diagnosis,
whether you reject or accept labels.
whether you reject or accept labels.
Let's all support mind justice.
Let's all support mind justice.
And let's connect with other oppressed groups.
And let's connect with other oppressed groups.
Mind justice.
Mind justice.
Next.
Next, please.
So how can we amplify our voices?
So how can we amplify our voices?
I love you all.
I love you all.
However, there are only 2,000 of us on this.
However, there's only 24 of us on this.
I'm sure
I'm sure
that thousands have been touched by Ruth
that thousands have been touched by Ruth
and her movement.
in our movement.
So unless I've discouraged attendance,
So unless I've discouraged attendance,
where is everybody?
where is everybody?
That's okay. Even if there's one of you,
That's okay. Even if there's one of you,
I've always said that's a success.
I've always said, even if there's only one of you, I've always said that's a success.
Our movement has a cloak of invisibility.
Our movement has a cloak of invisibility.
So just like the Harry Potter, enjoy it.
So just like Harry Potter, enjoy it.
So let's build bridges.
So let's build bridges.
That's what we know we need to do.
That's what we know we need to do.
Next.
Next, please.
Incredibly, I found one of the main bridges
Incredibly, I found one of the main bridges
is just between mental health consumers
is just between mental health consumers
and psychiatric survivors.
and psychiatric survivors.
Many people have had positive experiences.
Many people have had positive experiences.
They've had their life saved in the mental health system.
They've had their life saved in the mental health system.
But everybody, if there's any oppression,
But everybody, if there's any oppression,
we are all oppressed.
we are all oppressed.
You may have had a good experience.
You may have had a good experience,
But what about others?
but what about others?
And Yeah. Even among us,
even among us,
psychiatric survivors,
even among us psychiatric survivors,
I've often seen bigotry,
I've often seen bigotry,
snobbery.
snobbery,
Some psych survivors
some psych survivors,
even call mental health consumers
even called mental health consumers,
psycho slaves.
psycho slaves.
They consider consumers dupes.
Pardon me?
They consider consumers dupes.
They consider consumers dupes.
But I've gotten a lot of help
But I've gotten a lot of help
with mental health system.
with mental health system.
A lot of my friends have also.
A lot of my friends have also.
It's complex.
It's complex,
Like with your parents.
like with your parents.
Who is a perfect parent?
Who has a perfect parent, right?
Right. So many of us are actually both
So many of us are actually both
consumers and survivors.
consumers and survivors.
If you've been denied alternatives,
If you've been denied alternatives,
which is almost everyone,
which is almost everyone,
you're a survivor too.
you're a survivor too.
So please, let's wear both hats.
So please, let's wear both hats.
And this is our main bridge I found.
And this is our main bridge I've found.
We really need room for both moderates
We really need room both for moderates
and like me radicals.
and like me radicals.
Together.
Together,
Next.
next please.
So early years, one of these events
So in the early years, one of these events
was even in Toronto.
was even in Toronto.
And for 10 years, a small group of us met.
For 10 years, a small group of us met.
And now tens of thousands of people
And now tens of thousands of people
are peer support specialists.
are peer support specialists.
Next.
Next, please.
So I'll just briefly mention a few of my late friends
So I'll just briefly mention a few of my late friends
because later on you'll see
because later on you'll see
we need human pride.
we need human pride.
And these have been some of our humans
And these have been some of our humans
who had MadPride,
who had mad pride.
and they're gone now.
And they're gone now,
But we remember them.
but we remember them.
Judy Courtney.
Judy and Cookie.
Next.
Next, please.
But Justin Dart helped start the Disabilities Act in the US.
Justin Dart helped start the Disabilities Act in the United States.
Another revolutionary
Another revolutionary
against forced.
against forced treatment.
Next.
Next.
Leonard Ray Frank
Leonard Roy Frank
and Howie the Harp.
and Howie the Harp.
Leonard's birthday is this Monday
Leonard's birthday is this Monday
with my friend Susan Curtin.
with my friend Susan Curtis.
Both against shock.
Both against shock.
Next.
Next.
Lauren and Pat.
Lauren and Pat.
Next.
Next.
George and Yul Don Whites.
George, and you all know Don Whites.
Don, we miss you.
Don, we miss you.
I know you had trouble with the phrase MadPride,
I know you had trouble with the phrase mad pride,
but there's room for everybody.
But there's room for everybody.
Even the people that Easter Bunny or
What? Even
even the people are the tooth fairy.
even if you think there's a tooth fairy,
Yeah, we support everyone's rights.
we support everyone's rights.
So on MadPride, Psychiatric Survivor Pride.
So Don, psychiatric survivor, MadPride survivor.
Yeah, George, same thing. He preferred psych survive.
So George, same thing. He preferred psych survivor.
That's okay.
And that's okay.
Next,
Next,
Celia,
Celia,
good friend of
a
ours.
good friend of ours,
Lead leader,
a key leader,
African American.
African American.
Next,
Next,
and love and gratitude.
and love and gratitude,
Ruth.
Ruth.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Next.
Next,
So, mind freedom,
so Mind Freedom,
which I directed for 25 years.
which I directed for 25 years.
We did many actions.
We did many actions,
Like a hunger strike.
like a hunger strike,
So there's no proof of a biological psychiatric disorder.
showing there's no proof of a biological psychiatric disorder.
Right, that was kind of wild. Next.
You're welcome. Next,
So how do we build bridges between mental and physical disability?
so how do we build bridges between mental disability and physical disability?
Next,
Next,
well, we are very diverse.
well, we're very diverse.
I have a few of the labels are
I have a few of the labels there,
like head injury,
like head injury,
neurodivergent,
neurodivergent,
developmental disability,
developmental disability,
many more.
many more.
We have an enormous number of people.
We have an enormous number of people.
Notice I like perceived.
Notice I use the word perceived.
Yeah, that's the definition.
That's the definition.
People may reject their label
People may reject their label
or accept their.
or accept their label.
Next,
Next,
and Reverend Philip may be listening,
and Reverend Philip may be listening,
but I called him and still do the Mad Movement Minister.
I've called him and still do the Mad Movement Minister.
He is here.
He is here.
So Rev Philip
So Rev Philip
has been our movement for decades.
has been in our movement for decades.
About 6 years ago, a half-ton truck hit him.
About 6 years ago, a half-ton truck hit him.
So if someone wants to debate about mental disability,
So if somebody wants to debate about mental disability,
there are x-rays
there are x-rays
for beloved Philip.
for beloved Philip.
So the medical model helped him survive,
The medical model helped him survive,
but his spiritual gifts
but his spiritual gifts
have helped him recover.
have helped him recover.
And he is now minister of a Unitarian Universalist church.
And he's now a minister at a Unitarian Universalist church in Curryville, Texas.
Hey, Philip, I'm glad you're on.
Hey, Philip, I'm glad you're on.
Head injury builds bridges.
Head injury builds bridges.
And next,
And next, please.
so only downward slide.
The only downer slide.
Help!
Help.
Climate crisis,
Crisis.
pandemics,
And pandemic.
poverty.
Poverty.
Next.
Next.
Ah, Well, I just want you to remember one thing from my talk.
Well, I chose one thing to remember from my talk.
Greta,
Greta.
she identifies as having huge problems.
She identifies as having huge problems,
Whatever you want to call them.
whatever you want to call them.
Her parents were worried about her survival.
Her parents were worried about her survival.
As a youngster,
As a youngster,
she often wouldn't eat.
she often wouldn't eat.
She would be isolated.
She would isolate,
Would not talk.
would not talk.
She weep.
She would weep.
She was very much a hurt person.
She was very much a hurt person.
Today, she calls it difference.
Today, she calls it a difference.
Or she calls that difference
She calls that difference.
a superpower.
Oh, she calls that difference a superpower.
Being able to see through the BS.
Being able to see through the BS.
I mean, many of the people who call themselves normal
I mean, many of the people who call themselves normal
are basically accepting conformity.
are basically accepting conformity.
And Greta showed us superpowers.
And Greta showed us superpowers.
Mental disability
Mental and disability
as superpower.
as superpowers.
Next.
Next.
So we know the value of peer support.
So we know the value of peer support.
Let's get that out to everyone.
Let's get that out to everyone.
We have many of us
We have many of us
look at health.
looked at how.
Health.
Help.
HELL.
I beg your pardon. Many of us have looked at health
Or a life.
or hell-like.
So we know with enough support,
So we know with enough support
we can address severe issues.
that we can address severe issues.
The public needs a now,
The public needs,
that
the
now.
public needs that now.
They're basically in denial.
They're basically in denial,
Even moderates.
even moderates.
It's next slide.
Next slide, please.
So yes, we need to connect among ourselves. Next.
So yes, we need to connect amongst ourselves. Next.
And we need to connect to the wider disability movement.
And we need to connect to the wider disability movement.
Because so often given inadequate attention
Beg your pardon?
for last time.
A mental disability is often given inadequate attention.
Next.
Next, please.
So we need to connect
So we need to connect
with other marginalized voices.
with other marginalized voices.
They've done pretty good.
They've done pretty good.
BIPOC,
BIPOC,
LGBT,
LGBT,
etc.
etc.
And we need to connect
And we need to connect.
our cloak and the invisibility
Our cloak of invisibility
can be a superpower.
can be a superpower.
Next.
Next, please.
One good reason, climate crisis.
One good reason, climate crisis.
I work on this as one of my main issues.
I work on this as one of my main issues.
I thank you, Ruth, from me bridging the two issues.
And thank you, Ruth, from me for bridging the two issues,
Yeah, MadPride
MadPride
and climate crisis.
and climate crisis.
Next,
Next, please.
so why is MadPride such a challenge?
So why is MadPride such a challenge?
Well, think about the phrase.
Well, think about the phrase,
Human pride.
human pride.
And I don't mean hubris.
And I don't mean hubris.
I don't mean bad pride.
I don't mean bad pride.
I mean positive.
I mean positive.
Think about positive human pride.
Think about positive human pride.
It's often difficult for people.
It's often difficult for people.
Like how we're treating Earth.
How we're treating Earth.
However,
You've
seen the incredible heroes in our movement.
You've seen incredible heroes in our movement.
Just a few.
Just a few.
I'm sure you have many, many more.
I'm sure you have many, many more.
And that's positive human pride.
And that is positive human pride.
Positive mad pride
Positive, mad pride
is positive human pride.
is positive human pride.
Next. And so I have a consulting business.
So I have a consulting
And the
business.
word true actually means thanks.
And the word achu actually means thanks in Lithuanian.
And next,
Next, please.
I hope people contact me, jot down my email address.
I hope people contact me, jot down my email address,
Contact me via Sarah.
or contact me via Thera.
So wrapping this up,
So wrapping this up,
you can end the show.
you can end the show.
Slideshow. Yeah, just say that we cite survivors.
And I'll just say that we psych survivors
Are incredible survivors.
are incredible
Many
survivors.
of us survived shock,
Many of us survived shock,
forced drugging,
forced drugging,
homelessness, solitary confinement,
solitary confinement,
cloak of invisibility.
a cloak of invisibility.
But we survive and persist and fight back.
But we
Anyway.
survive and persist and fight back anyway.
And that's what we need to share now
And that's what we need to share now.
with the whole disability movement.
We need to share now with the whole
And the
disability
whole
movement
world.
and the whole world.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, David. Everyone's giving their round of applause. And thank you, Deborah. What an amazing couple. Thank you so much. All questions and comments for David can happen at the end of the show for our open discussion, and always reach out to his email. I can share that after the event. Thank you so much, David. And very informative, and it is. We need to start building those bridges. And I think we have a new bridge together. You know, my first time meeting David, and it was Ruth who started this bridge, and I think we can continue to build it. All right, thank you so much. So up next is, you know, the infamous Honey Novick. Honey Novick, award-winning singer, songwriter, voice teacher, as well as a poet. She is the director of the Creative Vocalization Studio, facilitates voice yoga at the Secret Handshake Gallery, and is on the board of the Friendly Spike Theater Band. Honey edited the Friendly Spike's enormously successful Poemdemic, which was a collection of poems and musings based on the lived experience of COVID-19, as well as our second anthology, Quanoscent Docent, which is Latin for What Hurts Teaches. And 2 of those copies of Quanoscent Docent will be given away as prizes at the end of tonight. Tonight, Honey will be reading her song poem, which is epic, from I'm Mad, I Matter, Making a Difference, a publication by the Creative Vocalization Studio with the Friendly Spike Theater Band. Please give a warm welcome to Honey Novak.
Thank you, Sarah. For a minute, I had, she's talking about me. Okay. Anyway, so this afternoon, many people here know that Ruth and I were very close, and I just wanted to acknowledge Elizabeth, Ruth's sister. It's not a happy day for me, even though it's sunshiny and everything. So I decided to drive by, where Ruth lived, just as a kind of, I don't know, nostalgia, something, just a connection, a memory. So anyway, I'm a little bit down, but not totally. This particular long piece requires your participation. It's the history of the Friendly Spike Theater. So Ruth kind of did it as a dissertation. And, if you read dissertations, they're factually correct, but who wants to really read a dissertation? So I decided with her, certainly with her, I couldn't have done this without her, to turn it into the history of the MadPride of Friendly Spike Theater from the voice of 2 dogs. And that's, you have to start thinking like dogs, please. And so the first thing I came up with was the title. And the title is an acrostic, I'm mad, I matter, making a difference. So you can read it across, I'm mad, or you can read it up and down. I matter, making a difference. So that was the first thing. For those of you who have this lovely, truly lovely book, it's got artwork in it as well. The first or the second picture of dogs is by Aurora de Cruz, who I think is somewhere on here as well. And if you don't have a copy of the book, what can I say? Get it or not. So I'm going to start to read this, and then I'm going to cue you when it's your turn to come in. Now, we timed it. It's about 20 minutes, but it could be longer, it could be less. We shall see. If anybody gets bored, either let me know or keep it to yourself. Decide later. So here it goes. Howling back for the Friendly Spike Theater Band, where every dog has his and or her day. In his epic poem, Howl, written in 1956, Allen Ginsberg wrote, quote, I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, end of quote. 33 years later, in 1989, the Friendly Spike Theater Band, a company named after 2 dogs, Friendly and Spike, began shaping a new understanding of madness based on their own lived experiences. They did this through play creation. My name is Honey Novak, and this is my own epic song poem, a stream of consciousness about this extraordinary endeavor and my involvement with it, a relationship going into 2 decades. With the help of founder-director Ruth Stackhouse, I am detailing the history of this company, although not comprehensive and with poetic license, by howling back at tragic madness and creating something beautiful. Please howl with me when I give you the cue. Well, Bard Ginsburg, your generation ain't the only frickin' one, and so we howl at the dogma, the doggerel, and the doggedy daughters, because I have seen the greatest minds of my generation excel because of madness. We're mad and we're proud. Cue. Come on, everybody. Or are you all muted? Come on, off mute. Here's your first part. Hey, little doggy, do you hear it? Listening. This is going to come again and again and again. We're howling back to all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world. I stamp my feet, wiggle my tail, howl, howl back because we are howling for 1, 2, 3, 4 forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, dicks, licks, bites, snuggles, cuddles. No, I am resilient, not destroyed. I am emerging. I'm mad. I matter, making a difference, singing this song. This is an urge. The urge is an urgency. The urgency is an emergency. Emerge and see. Oh, dear Bard Ginsberg, your time and my time are different. You lived during the beat generation. I live in a time when I can move to my own beat, when I can write beat poetry for Bill Bissett. In a complacent world, let sleeping dogs lie. They are content, and if not content, they become distracted. You know, sex, sax, drugs, bugs, pugs, hugs, rock and roll, until one curious, awakened bitch starts to stir, stirring like a tenacious terrier. She asks questions. She sees stories. She knows she can make a difference, doggone it. And so, with her cohorts, cuddly smiles, and barking sundog, they made theater. Let's go back to the fringe festivals of 1989 and the early 1990s, which gave rise to Rochdale, a multimedia play about a hippie college, an alternative way of learning things. Rochdale, Bard Ginsberg, where back in the early 1970s, you and Maestro John Burroughs came to sniff at the goings on and on and on to the University of Toronto, where you, Bard Ginsberg, you and your drum found me. We are connected in time and events and concerns in business. Do you hear me? These are the dog days of summer, hot, sultry, just waiting for the heat to stir the cockles of the unfulfilled heart. Okay, cue. Hey, little doggy, did you hear it? Listen, we're howling back to all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world. I stamp my feet. Come on, I wiggle my tail. Howl, howl, because we are howling for 1, 2, 3, 4 forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, licks, bites, snuggles, cuddles. Where are you? Are you all muted? Oh, great. We don't need your sympathy. We need opportunity. Housing, education, socialization, inclusion, accessible urban parkland. We need to destroy stigma. We need healthy food. We need good breathable air. We need everything human beings need. Guess what? We are human beings. Transformative, inspired, misunderstood, howling, baying beings, and we are not barking up the wrong tree. Hey, little doggy, here's your cue. Your cue. Do you hear it? Listening, we're howling back to all the Allen. Come on, are you all muted? Ginsbergs of the world. I stamp my feet, wiggle my tail, howl, howl back because we are howling for 1, 2, 3, 4 forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, licks, bites, snuggles, cuddles. Listening. Listen to the howl. It will direct you. The howling is the whisper of the wind. Follow it. It is directing you. Starting softly, it says, disability, visibility. Say it again. Say it with me. Disability, visibility. One more time. Disability, visibility.
Disability.
And so the bitches, the holy howling howl is created in 1993, marked Living with a Stigma, a woman's journey through the psychiatric system. This is important to note. Just because something can't be seen doesn't mean it isn't mean because it is. It is a burden, a hidden, unbidden nuisance. Doggone it. Here's your cue. Hey, little doggies, did you hear it? Listen, we're howling back to all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world. I stamp my feet, wiggle my tail, howl, howl, because we are howling for 1, 2, 3, 4, forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, licks, bites, snuggles, cuddles. Ah, yes, stigma. The cloak that covers rage and secrets and eccentric behavior. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come under my cover and we'll burn. I mean, I'm on fire. I don't burn anything. See what I mean, do you? This stigma that keeps people apart, misunderstood, and very, very sad. This is why we're howling back, turning dog day afternoons into glorious days of resistance. And we did it with theater. After marked Living with a Stigma came I Will Not Fall, Francine Tariff Nicholas. This time baying and braying about domestic violence. Oh yes, out of the closet came this topic. It was time. This violence is much too common, and this one knows no boundaries. This violence affects any perpetrator who is unfulfilled, hopped up on chemicals, disillusioned, and especially alpha dogs or those who think they are, and or alpha dogs who want to be what they are not. The statistics are stark. 1 in 4 women experience domestic violence at some point in their life. Statistics Canada 2020. How much more difficult is it for those that are marginalized, poor, challenged by mental health, and that other chorus of inadequate housing, unemployment, and details too complex to pinpoint in a few words? Domestic violence is opaque, hidden, and needs to be put into view, clarified, so that the stigma can be removed, disintegrated. The opaqueness of this domestic violence issue must be made very, very visible and very, very loud. After all, a burden shared is a burden lessened. Pew. Hey, little doggy, do you hear it? Listen, we're howling back. Are you muted? To all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world, I stamp my feet, wiggle my tail, howl, howl back because we are howling for the 1, 2, 3, 4 forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, licks, bites, snuggles, cuddles. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone has something to say. Every bitch and alpha dog, pet, pooch, comfort, smooch wants attention. We all need it. Not all of us can give it, but those that can do, and those that can't, I can't speak for. As the elders taught, quote, "We did not come here to teach you. We came here to love you. Love will teach you." End of quote, Indigenous teaching. Rochdale, that edifice of experimental education, radical in theory, revolutionary in practice, those hallowed halls in time bedecked with excrement, angels of hell, braying demons, and suicidal screamers. This Institute of Higher Learning, oh yes, very high, gave way to welcoming new ideas, nightmares, and the symbol for no dog, no. Under the clarion call of I Will Not Fall started to ring, and it rang for the hearing, and it rang for those that could only hear what the rest could not. I will not fall. a chant, a mantra, the invocation of the brave. The media heard the sound, the people gathered round, and all the ground began to wail, keening sharp as a knife. I did not fall, I did not crumble, I did not fail, I only stumbled. I only teetered, I nearly failed, I merely stumbled, I have prevailed. From poetry to monologues, it all stems from the voice of the dogs. From thesis to theater, we can't make this story neater because a tale came to us from spirits and through angels, angels of 999 psychiatric patients, history at the Toronto Hospital for the Insane, Realm with Stackhouse Innes, 1999-2000. I mean, stories of people locked behind walls, working for nothing day in and day out. People so different. They created in textile, they created with seeds. They had no one who could really hear their pleas. Chorus, here's your cue. Hey, little doggy, did you hear it? Listen, we're howling back to all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world. I stamp my feet, wiggle my tail, howl back because we are howling for 1, 2, 3, 4 forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, licks, bites, snuggles, cuddles. Time behind walls, some took to scaling those heights. Some so bereaved their barks unheard in the plight. Time heals all wounds, and time wounds many heals. But a yip in the future brought out the mongrels, the curs, the mangy, and the absurd. Who really let the dogs out? Who? Who? Hear the summons of father and daughter with Stackhouse Innes, survivors of a Holocaust, resilience purveyors, somehow, somewhere, someone hears their prayers. Edmund Yu was shot and killed by Toronto police on the Spadina bus. His anguish was felt. He did not die in defeat. Somewhere, somehow, the defunct Puzzle Factory, a place born of stories told by the forlorn, where misfits finally were finding their fit, and a sound from those tied became fit. Cue. Hey, little doggy, did you hear it? Listen, we're howling back to all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world. I stamp my feet, wiggle my tail, howl, howl back because we are howling for 1, 2, 3, 4 forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, licks, bites, snuggles, cuddles. Now we come to the girls, those bitches, bitching because they knew they were different. They knew they mattered. They knew their howlings needed to be splattered everywhere, everyhow, and thus they took their flight. They said they would take responsibility for their plight and of their privilege, feeling generational links, like yours, Bard Ginsberg, and that of your mother. Thus, with this newfound dignity, they formed a camaraderie and pushed forth onto the Girls of Grandview, Collective 2002. Oh, yes, those girls, targets of the bitchicide. Put them aside, you know, bitchicide, the killings of the bitches, the females, just because they're females. The authorities wanted them to ride the tide of time unnoticed. But these bitches weren't having it. They howled and they bayed. Their doggery rose above walls and tree lines, over waters and dumpsters. They would not be invisible, inequitable, silent. No dogs' bodies, these dames. Who let the dogs out? Who? Who? These bitches paused and stamped their ground. They made headway. Something to be said for camaraderie, the camaraderie of unity. The threat always there. Always be good or you'll get sent to Grandview. Unmanageable truant escaping an unhappy home. 12 years old, or maybe 13 or 14 or 15 or 16 or 17 or 18. Formative years, ripe, nubile, virginal, ready for the pickings of lecherous guards or bullies with authorities. The Grandview Training School for Girls, quote, was a concentrated pool of poor, damaged, used, undervalued girls sucked into a whirlpool, not part of the world view, stinking, dreadful cesspool. Blood blue, black blue, breathless blue. You took my hope, you took my faith, you took my love, you took my trust, and you thrust, but not like Jesus on the cross. You wrote me off at a cost. Femicide, slow death ride, cruel, cruel, cruel. Femicide, slow death ride. 40 years and on the rise. I've been dead more than alive. End of quote. It's not just a dog-eat-dog world. It's bitches be bitchin'. By 1991, criminal investigations were launched. Results: 119 charges against 8 individuals. Source: CBC News, November 17th, 1999. Who said a dog with a bone to pick can't be heard? No one at the Friendly Spike Theater Band. They wrote the story, and the Grandview survivors were somewhat vindicated, but not totally healed. Would they ever heal? And so they started to sing. When you form a circle, nobody's first and nobody's last. The good that we do will make up for the hurts of the past. Cue, chorus. Hey, little doggy, did you hear it? We're howling back to all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world. Come on, I stamp my feet. Howl back because we are howling for 1, 2, 3, 4 forward towards a new vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, licks, bites, snuggles, hugs. These bitches climbed those walls, metaphorically, realistically. They stuck out their thumbs, hitched and howled and bitched away from the grand view of the hellish Grandview. They lived to tell, to stage their salvation. Using the links of humanity born of past troubles, they told their tales and wagged their tails and opened the way for others to wag their own tails. Some blurred the lines with cross-dressing, singing, baying, putting on my guy. Others took their life's experience instructors to instructing a common cause in the classroom. Each took a social justice cause of the mundane into the theater. Thus, Myron made his psychiatric review board hearing into the Great Dane, not mundane of theatricals, saying, I told you my story, now it's your turn to tell yours. Through storytelling, we link our humanity, our canine anonymity, and what have we got? We got empathy. The bottom line, say it again, say it with me. We got empathy. Say it with me. We got empathy. And the common cause they all realized was each and every one had been very hurt at a very young age. From these links to house links, note the big difference between these links and being on a chain leash, each one unleashing their inner, you ain't nothing but a hound dog, mutt-mutts and more mutts, pooch-poochy, churls, canine, not to be pets, petted or petticoated, but compadres, compañeros, because we got empathy. We got empathy. We're going to bow, wow, wow to your wow, wow, wow. You got wow. I got wow. We got bow, wow, and we're going to bow. This is how we bow to your wow. Hands in the air, hands held high, nod from side to side, then bow, 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 wiggle, 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 waggle, waggle, waggle. This is how we bow to your wow. Okay, here's your cue. Hey, little doggies, do you hear it? Listen, we're howling back to all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world. I stamp my feet, wiggle my tail, howl, howl back. And we are howling for 1, 2, 3, 4, forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, licks, bites, snuggles, cuddles. Through the stage theater, truths came out and about. They swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you, dog. Thus, Human Rights Matter, produced by Friendly Spike in 2004, used 3 separate human rights complaints based on disability issues to make the point that disability rights are human rights and they matter. It's important to stand up for your rights. There's no advocate like a self-advocate. One case dealt with the wrongful termination of Matthew from Trendy Boutique. Matthew had HIV and the owner feared it was contagious. The second case dealt with a woman who was blind and used a guide dog. She was denied a rental unit at Uppity Towers because the owner did not allow dogs. The third case dealt with a woman labeled with schizophrenia who was denied a job at the chicken shack when the owner learned of her illness. And on it went, from trendy boutiques to chicken shacks to teach. Theater education activism changes humanity. In 2005, the ODSP, Ontario Disability Support Program, Action Coalition reveals and revels how theater education activism changes humanity. College Street United Church, Toronto. Imagine the bitches and alpha males changing history. And on it went. And they called it puppy love. Is this or is this not true puppy love? Get on, little doggy. 2006 is My Sister's Keeper, remembering the victims of the Montreal heartache and so many others. The Places We Share presented the Alchemy Theater in 2006, set in Indy's Cafe and Diner. There, really true alchemy happened. This brought diverse communities together in a show of support for Indira's rejection of an arranged marriage. 2007 is the dreadful anniversary of Edmund Yu's murder in 1997 and a remount of the Edmund Yu Project, because some things must never be forgotten. And as an aside, in 2019, those with mental health issues are still being stigmatized, hounded, branded murderers, and scapegoats. The Edmund Yu Project in 2001 and 2007 and Wrestling with Fear, Kartna 2014, dealt with police brutality of the mentally ill. We keep addressing these themes because in Toronto in 2020, these themes keep reappearing within our culture like a cancer that won't quit. Michael Elegon, Regis Kerchinsky-Piquet, Ijaz Chowdhury, O'Brien Christopher Reed, Sami Yatim, and on and on and on, all gone at the hands of those positioned to serve and protect. Since 2000, nearly 500 Canadians have lost their lives in encounters with the police. The vast majority are people with mental health issues and or addiction issues. CBC News, April 2018. In 2008, tied together, a Mad People's History play, Ruth Stackhouse, was created based on the stories of MAM, May, Audrey, Matilda, 3 denizens of the old 999. They stepped out of their patient files and into our hearts with lessons linked to our own time period. The patients built the walls. They were never paid for creating a barrier that kept them inside, and never once in conversation did this topic seem to be one that seemed to be of any interest. Lest we forget our mad pride parading through this first decade of the millennium each and every July, celebrating our pride with a hospital bed being pushed along Queen Street West. Q Q. Hey, little doggy, did you hear it? Listen, we're howling back to all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world. I stamp my feet, wiggle my tail, howl, howl back because we are howling for 1, 2, 3, 4 forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, lips, bites, snuggles, cuddles. Lo and behold, or should I say, lo and be howled, we became tied together and then we moved to our own beat, hands and feet keeping the beat. We marched to the backward world of the brilliant and important Degas and Del Bacid Stackhouse. Read it backwards, folks. Dogs rule, and that brought us to the apple orchard surrounded by the walls are alive with the sound of making a difference, not the same old story, and told our story, delivering us to What's Next, the Big C, Cartna 2016. All during our history, we caught the attention of the theater world, and the great coveted awards like the Herald Award for Shit Disturbing Theater in 1992, to the prestigious ACE Awards Artist for Community Engagement in 2012. November 7th, 2016, Leonard Cohen died. We paid tribute to him in Madly, I'm Your Fan in 2017, inviting multidisciplined artists, including a National Film Board of Canada filmmaker, Pierre Tetreault. We honored the words of Leonard and his courageous stand in talking about depression and mental illness. From the filmmaker, quote, "A big, huge thank you to Friendly Spike for the screening of clips from my film, The Beggar's Description, featuring my brother Phil hanging out with Leonard Cohen in front of his house in Montreal. Leonard supported Phil as an artist because he believed in his poetic vision created while facing many mental challenges. Leonard understood extreme mental states, having lived them himself over many years. He dubbed Phil and Henry Moscovich the Mad Poets and celebrated them in the press over the years," end of quote. Then, just us, just us, just us. We're here, do you hear? Get along, little doggy. We need to keep communicating these issues because they are still happening. Same story, different names. Those with mental illness blamed for mass murders everywhere. How many women were killed this year? We still attend vigils for psychiatric patients murdered by police. Let's certainly not forget the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. Those bitches and these topics are timely, universal, and a prayer for it to stop, heal, quit, stay. Until then, here's your cue. Hey, little doggy, do you hear it? Listen, we're howling back to all the Allen Ginsbergs of the world. I stamp my feet, wiggle my tail, howl back because we are howling for the 1, 2, 3, 4 forward towards a new creative vocalization of yips, barks, growls, sniffs, slobbers, nips, pulls, digs, licks, bites, snuggles, cuddles. Howl for one and one for howl.
Oh, oh.
In dog we trust. I'm mad, I'm madder, making a difference. This is an acrostic. Read me across or read me straight, up, down.
Woo!
Thank you so much for listening and participating.
Thank you, honey. And there will be, this is a live copy of what Honey was reading from. This is the first time well, probably the third or fourth time I've heard Honey read it live, maybe fifth or sixth even. And I was actually reading it along, and it's a lot to marinate, right? So you have to read this several times, and it's great to hear it while reading it. So there will be 2 copies of these in the prize draw tonight at the end of the night. So you could be getting your very own copy. And that's that. Thank you, honey. It's a lot. It's several pages, right? And it has all the history of Friendly Spike, so it's an incredible publication. Without further ado, thank you very much to Danielle Landry, who's here this evening. I'll briefly introduce her, and she's going to take it away. Danielle has been involved with Mad Community in Toronto for over a decade. She is currently writing her doctoral dissertation on activism within consumer survivor businesses in southwestern Ontario. Congratulations. In partnership with Madness Canada, she is building a digital archive to preserve this local history. She has taught courses in Mad Studies and Disability Studies at Toronto Metropolitan University since 2014. Danielle, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Sarah. First, can I get you to make it possible for me to load some slides? If you could do that, that would be great. Also, just big thank you to you, Sarah, and everyone for organizing this event. I really appreciate having a chance to be here with you guys. Can you guys see this slide? I'm gonna try and put it to the first one here. Does that work? Can anybody? Looks
Yes.
good? Okay, great. I can't see you anymore, but at least I can see the slides.
That's great.
Yeah, so I just want to first say that I was definitely thinking about Ruth today. And I can just picture like her really big glowing smile. And I think she'd be so happy that, you know, we're all gathering here today and we're kind of holding space for community and celebrating MadPride together. So I just want to thank everyone for being here and being present. And again, thank you to the organizers and to the speakers today as well. And also, I just want to kind of just take a second to kind of thank everyone who's shared Mad knowledge and ways of doing things with me over the years and over many, many years, including the people who, you know, shared knowledge with me for the work that I'm going to talk about here. I do have a little confession. It came out in the introduction, but I am an academic. I'm sorry, I've been converted. It is a bit of a cult, but and I know, as Honey said, like nobody wants to read a dissertation, and I promise I'm not going to read it to you. But I will give you kind of the highlights of some of the work that I've been doing here. I'm going to include some great photos, ones you've probably never seen before, and I'll tell you some stories you probably never heard. So please don't zoom away, even if you heard the word like academia, research, you know, it's not all bad, I promise. Okay, so I'm just going to start with a couple stories, actually. I've got a photo on the slide here. This is actually from the workshop at Able Enterprises. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Able Enterprises, but it's a workshop business that's in Simcoe County, and it's a consumer survivor business, and it's one of the oldest, and it's celebrated. It's the oldest that's still running, and it celebrated its 40th anniversary this year. And so me and David Revel had a little road trip down to Simcoe a few months ago, and we had a chance to be there for their 40th anniversary celebration. It was such an honor to be able to be there and celebrate with them, because it's an important milestone. Like, this is a business that, you know, got started by consumer survivors, by Mary Taylor and other folks, and it's still thriving. You know, it's had to adapt and change over the years, but it's really doing well, and there's a lot of members. There's a lot of like just folks in the community coming out to support and celebrate with them. Like there's like at least probably a couple hundred people there. It was really cool to see. And I guess I'm starting with talking about Able because, you know, and why I'm so interested in consumer survivor business history. And why I'm thinking about it in the context of MadPride too is I think this is a history that a lot of people don't know. And it's one we should really be proud of. It's really unique to Ontario too. And so I'm kind of, the work that I'm doing is really trying to preserve and share this history. Because consumer survivors, Mad folks, ex-patients, you know, we've been doing things differently in terms of how we do activism. And so I'm really interested actually in the advocacy, the activism that's been done through these businesses. And these are all kinds of different social enterprises, like small businesses, you know, woodworking companies, cafes, catering companies, cleaning companies, different kinds of businesses all across southwestern Ontario. And And I think it's really important not only that we preserve this history, but we preserve the businesses too, the ones that are still left. So in the talk, I'll just give you a little content note. So just take care of yourself. But I just want to give you a heads up that I do talk about, people having feelings of low self-worth and, people just keeping each other alive. And I think it's just want to give you a heads up about that. If it's hard for you to hear, you can kind of come back in a few minutes and I'll be done. But just take good care of yourself first and foremost. But yeah, this is kind of based on my doctoral research that I'm writing up right now. But this is kind of just a breakdown of what I'll be talking about. But I'll start with another story here too. So and in my talk today, I will name some people. I won't name everybody, and that's because some folks chose to use their real names when I interviewed them. Other people wanted to be anonymous or wanted to use just their first name. So when I'm naming people, just know I'm doing that with their consent. So that just to be clear. So I'm going to start with a story I did when I interviewed Tanya Shute, and she was one of the she was an executive director of the Craftsman Center for a number of years. She worked there for, I think, a decade. And she, she ran the Craftsman Center, and it's in Richmond Hill. If you're not familiar with it, it's a peer support drop-in center and a warm line. And again, another consumer survivor. It's not a business so much as a social enterprise, but these are kind of kin type organizations. And what I think is really neat about what she's saying here, she was telling me about all these different kinds of things that they did at the center that wouldn't really fit with what you'd normally expect from, standard mental health supports, right? And so, for instance, she talked about how once they ran like GED classes at the Craftsman. And this is a quote from Tanya. And she said, so we had GED classes, and then there was this, I got money once to put people through college for case management so that we could have a bunch of people with lived experience hired in the region. And this is before the professionalization of peer support. So it was really cool. Like we had to put people through their GED, and then we did a peer approach to college. So the professors came to our drop-in center, and we, had a classroom set up, and these guys, they hadn't been past grade 6, but it was awesome, end quote. So she was figuring out a way to kind of flip the way things were being done to bring the college into a survivor space, right? To ensure that psychiatric survivors could learn in a space that was fully accessible to them and comfortable for them. And later she described, another peer support group that they were holding at the organization. And she says, and I quote, "A lot of people started talking about not wanting to stay on their meds, like self-withdrawing from meds or like striking from meds. And this was a very dicey time, but we didn't know it was dicey because the psych survivor movement was all about this piece. And we had friends who were, friends with people at Mind Freedom in the United States. A little nod there to David. And, with the White Horse Project. And they were producing publications about how to withdraw from meds safely. So we would run groups, and we had, the manuals around, and we would do this thing, and we got in so much trouble," she said. And I'm still quoting her here. "We got a letter from the chief psychiatrist," and then she moans. And then she keeps talking, and she says, "But it was those moments where you're like, you asshat." So we wrote a letter back, and we said, people are going to do this anyways. Have you never heard about harm reduction? End quote. And I think it's a really telling, story that she told me because, as the head of a consumer survivor initiative, Tanya's response is really to push back against medical authorities, to assert the need for alternatives to reduce harm for folks at our community, who are at these intersections of like psychiatric interventions, housing insecurity, poverty, and really assert herself in those ways and assert the community in those ways. And I begin with these stories just kind of as examples of what I call small A advocacy amongst consumer survivor initiatives and businesses. And I kind of make a distinction between the small A advocacy, which is like more at the personal or interpersonal level, and big A advocacy, which is like the kind of advocacy people talk about more commonly, which would be like when you're trying to make systemic change or structural change or big policy or political changes. And I'll give you lots of examples here to talk about what I mean, but I'm making the distinction, not because we need to draw lines in the sand, but to say a lot of advocacy that was happening in these sites was like more of the small a advocacy means. There was certainly a lot of both, but I think the small a advocacy stuff doesn't get documented, it doesn't get talked about, and it's really, really, really important. And we do it well. And so that's why I'm trying to preserve that and talk about it. So again, this is kind of drawn on some research that I did, looking at these businesses. I'm looking specifically from 1980 to 2005, which is really when these businesses were involved in a lot of different kinds of advocacy. And when they had like secure funding, they still do, but they were able to secure funding in the early 90s. And so again, these are consumer survivor businesses. They got really politically active from these sites, and I think this is really important to track. And I won't go into this too much, but I'll just say, you know, as part of the research, it was an institutional ethnography, if you're familiar with that kind of research, social research, as I'm a sociologist. But I interviewed 42 people. And so there's a number, like a lot of them were consumer survivors. Not everyone though. I you know, interviewed people who worked in the businesses. I interviewed people who helped set up the businesses initially, other people who supported the business in other ways, or like, for instance, even folks at the Ministry of Health who were helpful for getting the funding going for like the Consumer Survivor Development Initiative. I talked to like all kinds of people that had something to do with getting these businesses going and running in those early years. And then I also gathered a ton of archival materials. So one beautiful thing that happened, like I planned on going to the archives to see what there was, but a lot of this stuff doesn't exist in formal archives. Some of it does, but not a lot. So what happened was people would come to the interview or would share documents with me, like their newspaper clippings, their photographs. And then I would share back what I had that I knew that related to their, like wherever they worked. And then we would talk about it. And you got such rich stories when people were looking at the photographs or they could remember a particular event. And so I thought that was such a cool way to tell a story and to share stories and share knowledge, was the ways we were looking at like all these kind of scraps of paper. And I just really feel the responsibility to preserve those materials. And so a lot of people were really generous and said, you know, like you can scan this or you can save a copy of it. And so I've been scanning and saving a lot of these materials. And so one big thing that's come out of this work is I'm creating a digital archive of consumer survivor business activism in Ontario. And so I'm going to be putting that together. It's not up yet, but it's going to go on Madness Canada's website, and it's going to be fully publicly available. And I think this is a really important piece of a bigger puzzle of preserving Mad activist history in Ontario. And I'm going to skip over this, but just a bit of a reminder of the context in like the 80s, 90s, if you weren't in Ontario at that time. It's when the NDP government came into power, and you know, it was kind of, the climate was right for securing funding for consumer survivor initiatives. And so we got $3 million from the Ontario government, from the Ministry of Health, and we're able to secure the Consumer Survivor Development Initiative. So, you know, you could put in a pitch to start an initiative, whether that's a peer support organization or a business, and you could get funding. And initially it was one-time funding, but then that became part of the mental health budget going forward. And so these businesses always, as social enterprises, are able to get some money to run and help kind of, you know, fund the business. And I think that's really significant, because even just that as an example, like how consumer survivors were able to advocate to say, hey, you should be funding our businesses. You know, we can do this. You know, you're going to save money by helping support us and get, you know, working. So, and like they were able to make the case using research, using, you know, the fact that they had been running, you know, things on a dime for many years, and we're able to do that. And that funding, again, is still being used. Unfortunately, it hasn't really gone up since the 90s. So that's a huge problem, you know, when you don't have enough funding. But I think that even just being able to make that argument and secure the funding, that's a major accomplishment too. So on this slide, I have a number of the businesses that were in Ontario. Some aren't around anymore. If you remember any other businesses If you're familiar with any others that aren't on the screen, please feel free to write them in the chat, because I'd love to hear more. There certainly were others. These are the ones that, you know, I talked to people about specifically, or came up in the archival materials I was looking at. That this is by no means all of them. And again, this is just the businesses. This doesn't even include all the many consumer survivor initiatives across Ontario, which there are many more than this. Okay, again, I'm just using this kind of way of talking about the difference between small A advocacy as like the personal or interpersonal kinds of ways of, you know, learning to speak up for yourself, finding a voice, speaking up for your friends, speaking up for your workmates, right? Like those kinds of smaller A advocacy compared to like big A advocacy, looking at making big systemic changes. And again, it's not to say that one happened and the other one didn't. They both were happening. And big A advocacy is really important. And this on the slide is just a smattering, just a few of the things that people talked about when I interviewed them about the ways in which Mad people got active within survivor businesses. This is pretty unique too, right? When you think about how many people at their workplace start fighting for mental health rights. Well, consumer survivor businesses were really unique in that they actually did a lot of advocacy work. Some informally, some formally, but this was just a few of the examples of the things that people talked about that they did through their work. So again, this is the kind of big A advocacy stuff. Oh, thank you, honey. I appreciate you writing that down. Thanks. Again, these are just some of the big A advocacy things, but the ones I'm going to focus on are kind of the small A advocacy, the personal, interpersonal, because I think this is really unique to MAD and disability activism and doesn't get enough credit for how important it is. So some examples of the kinds of things that MAD folks in the community were doing within consumer survivor businesses. And just think of like, this is all layers of work too, right? That doesn't always get, you definitely don't get paid for it, but you don't get credit for it even, but it's a lot of work. And for a community that is often dealing with, paternalism and people thinking they can't do work, it's hilarious because look at all the extra layers of work that we're doing. But things like knowing how to keep yourself and keep each other alive in a world that doesn't value you, right? Collective grieving, that's something we definitely do in consumer survivor spaces. Learning how to navigate inaccessible and discriminatory service systems, like fighting for your housing, fighting for your ODSP, like other kinds of legal rights. We also are really good at challenging offensive representations for consumer survivors, speaking up against those. There are a lot of examples of that, a lot of examples of using humor. Consumer survivors have a great way of using humor to just, get over really hard stuff too. I have tons of examples, from the interviews, but also from the archives of people having fun, like doing kind of different kinds of socializing, to fight isolation, to celebrate the really important, but sometimes small victories, and also the big victories, but certainly just taking the time and space to celebrate together. Other examples of small A advocacy include, learning to speak up, finding your voice, even just doing the work of working within a survivor business is like proving, you're challenging paternalism, you're challenging saneism, you're showing, hey, we run our own business and we do it better than you. So that's really important. Taking the time you need, kind of these non-normative ideas around time and time expectations, pushing back against those. Also just reimagining what support looks like for MAD folks. Like we do this differently and we figured out ways of supporting each other that, the normies can't always figure out. Also just being yourself at work. Consumer survivors, within those businesses could just fully be themselves. And, they learned also like how to adapt to each other's needs. And they talked about that when, there's variations in what people need. And also just the ways in which consumer survivors were able to implement flexible, inclusive workplace practices. Like CSIs, consumer businesses were really like leaders in this. They still are leaders in this, and people turn to them to look at, oh, how do we do accessibility for, different kinds of disabilities? And it's like, well, actually, we're doing it, and we really should be recognized as exemplars in this area. So I'm just going to give you some more kind of stories and examples from interviews and archives that people shared with me about these kinds of small A activism. So let's see here. I've got one quote that I'll start with. It says, well, actually, let me just give you a little context. So this is in terms of people learning how to keep themselves and each other alive. So one participant elaborated on what she meant when she said that her past workplace felt like a community. So she kind of said, oh, you know, it felt like a community. So I probed a little further, and she said, and I quote, "A community that I think there were times when we saved people from going home or going out the door that evening to kill themselves. And that happened quite a few times. If it wasn't for us, we all stepping in and pulling in the same direction, that would have happened," end quote. So when I asked her, you know, what exactly did you guys do in those scenarios? She actually described really like complex processes where people would have, you know, different tactics. So the manager would know, and they'd tip off the other staff, and then they would pick up on these kind of clues that people said, and then they knew how to intercept. They would just keep the person company, and then they would rotate to keep the person from being on their own. And these are things that like you would have to train other people how to do, but you know, survivors have figured out how to care for one another in those spaces in kind of complex ways. And that's really amazing, because you're not going to find that in any other small business, right? Another thing is around collective grieving. So I spoke to one worker named Graham, and he described, you know, different tasks that he was assigned as part of his job as a courier. He was a courier with AOA Express, and he said, to give you an example, you know, somebody had passed away at the organization. Well, we've had people pass away from time to time, of course, but this was a courier manager, and he had passed away. And so I organized the in-office memorial service for them. So unlike other small businesses, you know, consumer survivor businesses would arrange activities for collective grieving when members died. And because death is all too common in our community. So this was really something that people had figured in and figured out how important it was to collectively grieve. And leaders of consumer survivor businesses that I talked to, especially, you know, the ones that were kind of outside the GTA, you know, they would talk about how when one, you know, advocate or one person had passed, that it was like how much was lost, right? So sometimes people wouldn't even recognize how crucial a person was for getting advocacy stuff off the ground until they were gone. And then it was like, they were just like, it was like you had lost like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like they were simply irreplaceable. When I talked to Charmaine Fredo, so she started a craft collective called Inspirations, which was for marginalized women over 30 years ago. And at that time, it was specifically for consumer survivor women and homeless women. You know, she described how she dedicated 10 years of her life working on a housing project in the name of Edmund Yu, who was, you know, a consumer survivor who had been killed by police, as Henny described. And so she actually, when I was interviewing her, she still had a photo of him on her desk, and she kind of turned it around and showed me. And she said, you know, even decades later, she tearfully said, "I firmly believe there has to be a place in the world for the Edmonds." And you can just see the passion in what she's talking about, how much she cares, right? And that really drove her work, this grief that she had and the need to change the world because of it. And I've got some news clippings on this slide. You know, they're talking about the Mad Market. If you're not familiar, Mad Market was like Don White's and some other guys that had kind of like a secondhand store. It was the first consumer survivor business. It ran from 1980 to 1988. But I've included this obit where Don White's wrote an obit to Alf Jackson. And it's really unfortunate, but a lot of the kind of documentation that does show up in archival material about people's advocacy and activism is in obits, right? But sometimes we don't recognize it until it's too late, until people are gone. And so that's why I think it's so important to do this now before people are gone. And we have already lost so many people. And the next point I want to kind of look to is navigating inaccessible and discriminatory service systems. So a lot of the people I talked to spoke to the need to advocate for one another and share knowledge and skills at navigating discriminatory service systems. So Beamer Smith from Breakaway Survivors spoke at length about doing a lot of individual advocacy, one-on-one advocacy for members who struggled, you know, the usual, like trying to just secure your ODSP benefits, housing, you know, other legal issues. Another survivor named Michelle McCauley described how she had been able to access trauma-informed treatment program at Women's College Hospital. Okay, Women's College, here, I've got the quote here. She, you know, she had been able to access this trauma-informed treatment program at Women's College Hospital, but, you know, because there's this two-tiered mental health system, she faced a lot of barriers. She says, and I quote, "This was before ODSP. I was on family benefits. And, you know, I'd gotten through with my third hospitalization and a day treatment program for several months, and then they'd referred me to Voc Rehab. I mean, they didn't even know, like they didn't even know that because this was a treatment program for people of means. They didn't know that Voc Rehab even existed. They didn't know how to fill out the forms. I had to get my sister, and her sister worked at the welfare office. She said, I had to get my sister to come out. They just weren't even used to that though, because they were used to people who had insurance plans, because they were the ones who would get trauma therapy, right? And everybody else who was poor would get a script of pills and generally be ignored at the hospital," end quote. So you can see like these barriers that folks are constantly having to navigate and fight against in terms of even just getting like the kinds of supports that everybody else who has, you know, insurance plans can get. But it made really clear how the system is designed to create inequity. So in terms of using humor, Michelle also talked about this. She was a courier at Away Express for over 25 years. And she talked about how humor was used to kind of talk through challenging situations. She said, and I quote, "It was the environments that we were in that were really, really important. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. And I wouldn't have come out the way I did. I do work through a lot of things like paranoia that got me fired. I quit lots or tons of jobs before that because I just couldn't handle what was going on. Like I couldn't deal with it. But the people helped me through that sort of stuff. Yeah, we even made humor about it, which is unusual. Some people can do it. That's how we deal with it, right? It's like I turned to," and then she says her manager's name. "I turned to their office and I'd say, you know, with this look in my face. And he'd say to me, 'Michelle, what's wrong? Your ears are flapping.' And, you know, she laughed and she said people could see it, that, you know, that I was starting to get wily and paranoid, but it was like we were going to joke about it. But most other places would say, oh, that's brutal or that's terrible. But it was actually just part of what we did," end quote. So I'm just noting how like humor and frankness are really essential to consumer survivor culture, and it's what makes it possible to talk through and beyond really difficult moments. And I'm including a photo from the archives here, and you can even see like in a lot of the documents I was looking at, you could see humor that was coming through in things like faxes, even like people just faxing things back and forth to each other that were really funny. But you can see here's like a document to try and incorporate a leadership program, and the leadership program did get approved and it was incorporated at the time, and it was called the In Your Face Learning Academy, right? So just this way that consumer survivors are very frank and having fun. And this is also speaking to people just having fun as a form of resistance, as a form of community care. And these are kind of some photos that were shared with me thanks to Working for Change, or what used to be called the Ontario Coalition for Alternative Businesses. And I think it became apparent to me when I saw a lot of the photos that people shared, like how much fun it was and how much like just community stuff was going on within these spaces. You know, people would gather together, and it was really important for community well-being, for socializing, and just for, you know, wanting to change things so everybody could live well. I know I'm running short on time, so I'm a little mindful of that. Thank you for keeping me posted. I'm just trying to think of what else I can include here. But I think it's important, like many survivors talk to me about finding their voice, learning to speak up, learning to self-advocate through their engagement in these businesses. I won't include all the quotes here, but let me skip over that one. But you can see here, like that's tabling from Inspirations. Now, if you go down Church Street in downtown Toronto, Inspirations is still there, but now it's a ceramic studio. And so that's pretty cool. That's been around for over 30 years. The other photo there is Diana Capone at the opening of Out of This World Cafe. That was a bit of a coup as well, because that was a cafe that was CAMH, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, divested to a consumer survivor business. And it was the very first consumer survivor business anywhere that was known to operate within a mental hospital. So like a lot of incredible things happen within a short time span because of the work of consumer survivors in Ontario. And I think it's really important that we track this history because it's not really documented anywhere and it shouldn't get lost. You know, other activists have written about how it's really important to collectively remember, to preserve, to share our knowledge, our history, activist histories. And I think this absolutely applies to MAD histories too. And also I think there's a lot of potential here to actually say, we do this differently. And I think we can actually shift people's understanding of what activism and advocacy even means, because we can think about it as world making. How do we change the world to make it more accessible to us, to make it better for us, to make it more equitable all around? And so it's really neat how, you know, survivors were fostering this in these alternative business models. So they were, you know, making space for themselves in these ways. And so I just really want to say, you know, people talked about the need for a home, a friend, a job, money. And I think that's really important, but I think we can, you know, in future, even push beyond that. We can have more expectations. We can, you know, we deserve safety, we deserve love, we deserve acceptance. And, you know, maybe let's dream up some other ones, right? Like, let's keep going and think up what futures we want for our community, for ourselves. And this is the slide where I say thank you to the funders, because I'm supposed to do that. And because also I couldn't have done it without the support, obviously. It takes a lot of years to do a doctorate. But I also just want to include the you know, reminder, happy MadPride, everyone. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, wealth of knowledge here. You could keep going and going. Thank you so much for being here and meeting you virtually. I hope to meet you in person one day and keep collaborating, because there's a lot more to pull out. And we've had this discussion before that it's not just about, you know, finding the housing and then, you know, and the food and things like that, and, you know, job placements, but also that emotional support and going beyond that line. Excellent. I want to take a quick little breather break. I'm going to play a video from YouTube and just bring everybody right back, and then we're going to get to Elaine Stewart's presentation. Here we go. Thanks for staying tuned in. All righty, here we go. Let me just make sure I'm sharing my sound. All right.
The hotel here, right?
Cheshire Cat. I'm Jenny out of Schizophrenia. I'm the Queen of Hearts. Because we're all mad.
Happy MadPride, everybody. Go crazy.
Oh, and I'm mad, and you have to be mad to be normal.
Such a great day to be walking down the street with a bunch of people who are able to use the word mad in the most beautiful kind of way. And I myself have been mad or two, once or twice in my life. So I'm really enjoying the opportunity to walk with others of a similar heart.
What's the tone? Crazy talk, crazy talk, crazy talk. So this is crazy talk. What does MadPride mean to you?
MadPride is an amazing celebration of all us mad folks who get together once a year and just let it all hang out. Ow! Everybody to see, yes, ow is right.
Ritzia says hi. And she's crazy.
My pen name is Sarah Finn. I write and draw a webcomic called Asylum Squad, which
awesome! I saw that. It's
yeah.
excellent.
Oh, you did?
Way to go! Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I was just in the neighborhood when that Castle on Queen, and I thought I'd volunteer for this because I had done so in Vancouver in '06, but never in my home city. So I popped by PCLS and volunteered to help organize. Did some painting, and yeah, I think I'm definitely doing this again next year. I had a good time.
I think MadPride is important to celebrate not just in Toronto, but every city. I was in Ottawa last year and there was no MadPride celebrations. Ottawa celebrates normal every day of the year.
The survivor from Taiwan.
I'm from Taipei.
Yes.
We have sort of psychiatric survival movement in Taiwan too.
Awesome.
I am very honored to be here to join the MadPride parade.
我们非常开心，非常荣幸有这个机会来这边。然后，台湾的朋友们呢，你们有机会一定要来，这边真的很棒。然后呢，黄河。
We just had a fellow drive by in his truck and honk at us, and I'd like to say, all right, we got mad truckers on our side. Let's hear it for mad truckers. That's great.
So is this angry pride? Because I'm really angry. I don't know what all these crazy people are doing here, but I'm just really mad and upset. And yes, and all these crazy people pointing at me.
Yeah, so my name is Richard. Somebody called me Dick, whatever. So I have a website on survival, survivalbible2001.com. A survival information on all climates and conditions for everybody. And I'm a member of PARC. I'm a so-called nutcase. So check it out and you'll have a bunch of information on survival.
This shirt I got from a friend in Edinburgh, Scotland, and they are worried that they should warn people that they may contain nuts.
I was talking to Jeff a while ago, and I compared our MadPride and becoming aware of our madness and our identity as psychiatric survivors and being supportive of others.
Happy MadPride! Yay!
So that is from Eric Fabry filmed that, I believe, from Crazy Talk, and it was 2009, the parade in Toronto in 2009, and I just thought it would be fun to share that. And moving on, all right, without further ado, Elaine Stewart is here. I'm very excited to do this presentation with you, Elaine. Elaine met disability and psychiatry in a painful collision. Her previous skills and practices were lost to her. Still, every loss is also an opportunity. She took that gift and went to art school. She is going to share some of her art practices here this evening with much gratitude for the opportunity. And Elaine, I am going to share the screen for you.
Okay.
Just go here. All right. Here we go.
Okay.
How's that, Elaine?
Okay. Can I just talk before I go into the artwork?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to read what I was writing. So I was wondering, where does this start? I was drawn to a quick answer that gave me lots of hope. The shortest distance between a human being and truth is a story. So I'll begin with my story here, with Ruth. I had crashed into psychiatry, never knowing anything of it. I was in the postpartum period of my second pregnancy. I'd reached a difficult place where I could barely walk. I was barely present, though I was caring for my son, my daughter, and my daughter's friend. It was mid-August, and there seemed to be no psychiatrists in town. My family doctor, who had been consulted about how I was, chose to dismiss me as an irresponsible mother who had not planned well for her second child. Who knows, maybe she was right. The business I had started after my first child, I had closed after my pregnancy. My second pregnancy was about 5 or 6 months on. And of course, there is no EI for self-employed people. My bad. She really knew so little about me. She came from a privileged background and had made many decisions that I was not in a position to make. The non-functional relationship with my doctor led my partner to try another hospital. The obvious state of my faltering being was enough to have them admit me to their psych ward. It was a new experience for me. It was like a place in hell. My original family doctor had prescribed Zoloft over the phone to my partner. He had filled the script. I refused to take it. I had always relied on my intuition, and it was telling me that Zoloft would make me psychotic. Anyone familiar with psychiatry would recognize that as an indicator of a person experiencing a mental illness. I dispute that, but I do know that after 30 years of psych meds, my intuition barely functions. The pressure to take Zoloft, the newest hot drug, was intense. The ward was bleak and terrible. I only got to see my children for minutes in a day. The pressure was on to take the drug. I was told it was my choice. If I would take it, I could be at home with my children. I finally gave in. A few days later, I was at Coxwell Station, knowing that I was evil and my beloved children deserved more. I had a strong belief that if I was not there, my children would miraculously have the mother they needed and deserved. And I jumped. Many days and surgeries later, I was discharged from Sunnybrook to a local rehab hospital, Riverdale Hospital. It was there that I was given a great gift. I met Ruth. Her partner was in the hospital I was in. He had jumped off the Bloor Viaduct. It was a terrible time for her, yet she made time for me. She knew the world shaped by psychiatry, and she held my hand with love and kindness. I learned so much from her. When you're in the hospital as a survivor of suicide, many medical people are happy to help you as they can. They fulfill their roles in your healthcare and are kind and seek the best solutions. Then there are also the haters. No one in the medical system, especially 30 years ago, though I don't know if that's changed, believed that psychiatric drugs could cause such destruction for those prescribed it. The haters did not believe suicide survivors deserved the care they were receiving. When it was something of care they were responsible for, it was not executed well, and some things did not turn out well. Ruth was one of the first founders of what became MadPride. The first walks were in Parkdale in '93. They moved around the world and became an important celebration as we reclaimed our right to be. It is a major celebration of us, who we are and what we bring to the world. Last year, Ruth had started talking about creating a virtual MadPride parade. It could have a great reach to many people. We talked about what could shape it and how it would function. She knew I'd become a practicing artist, so she handed me my assignment for the parade. I was to make art reflecting art, anger, and psychiatry. I was engaged and intimidated by the concept. I often felt Ruth recognized how little I had been able to process of what I had come through. She was giving me another lens to look through. I'd watched plays with Friendly Spike and attended writing workshops. This became a more intimate challenge. Each piece walked me down a different path. Each was difficult in its own way. The final pieces speak to me as a map leading me forward. This word of mad, it speaks differently to everyone who owns it. It does open the door to a richer world. I'm using the art to open the door to a world I inhabited long ago. I'm searching for words. There used to be cascades of words flowing and dancing, leading me to new places, places I had not been, places I had not dreamed, places I had not planned to go, opening the world to me. Okay, so I can switch over to my artwork. This particular piece was done quite some time ago. I was in CAMH, and I think some people got something out of CAMH, but I felt very disliked. my occupational therapist, she was like, well, you're not creative. Like, I'm creative. Like, look, I have red suede shoes, red suede belt, and a red suede purse. You just don't dress like you're not creative. I thought that was a pretty ridiculous comment because I did. Anyway, that's CAMH. It was not a good location for me. I know it worked for some people. So the next picture, this was a thread picture of a wolf skeleton we had in our house. Somebody had found it. His wife wouldn't let him bring it into the house, so we had it sort of lying around for a while. I don't know whatever happened to it, but this was my thread image of it. Okay, next one. Okay, so this is a psych symbol. I used all the red thread, so it sort of lost the image of the psych symbol. But I was thinking of psychiatry. It's made out of 2-inch screws, which I felt represented psychiatry. You know, like everybody gets screwed by psychiatry at one point or another. It's not a very functional place for most people who could use assistance, but psychiatry doesn't provide it. Psychiatry provides a very negative place and a very dismissive idea about who and what we might be. Next image. This is shattered. That's my son and me. He's about 6 or 7 months old at that point. We were on a camping trip in the Adirondacks, which was, I was barely able to function at that point. It was a bit of a nightmare for me, but I went because we were supposed to go, and that picture, I dropped it, so all the glass is all shattered. And I just felt like that was sort of my breaking point in many ways. Okay, next image. This one is a baby quilt. We immigrated to Canada when I was 2. So we didn't have family or anything like that. But someone who became my friend, who just lived down the street from me, she lent me the family cradle. So I was really, I felt so happy she'd done it. So I made a quilt, really special quilt out of silk. The embroidery in the center is from a blouse that a friend gave me that her mother had left her that she didn't like. And then when I was thinking about the falling apart that happened at that point in time, I just sort of made a shroud out of printing textiles and threads falling down. If you go to the next picture. Okay, so that's a close-up. All the threads, the red threads and the white threads were falling into a baby buggy, and all the letters spilled around spell out SSRIs, because a lot of people had very bad reactions to SSRIs. And I do know people that use it quite successfully, but it was a nightmare for me. Okay, next picture.
Yep.
And this was just me vomiting Zoloft. I didn't want to take it. I finally caved in. And I learned quite quickly I was right. Zoloft would make me psychotic. And that's the end of the story at that point in my life. It's 30 years old now. But anyway, okay. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
listening.
Round of applause for Elaine for being so brave this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very proud of you. Yeah. All right, we're whipping along here tonight. Oh, I'm just gonna exit that. Okay, here we go. I would like to welcome Henrik Kartner is here on the phone line. He's going to read a couple of poems. I'll do a brief intro. Please welcome Henrik Kartner. Henrik is a poet and a writer, even though he prefers not to use labels, so to speak. He has been acting for close to 20 years, worked with the Friendly Spike Theater Band for 14 years, community theater for 5 years, and Henrik sits on the board of directors for Habitats Services, as well as organizes housing for psychiatric patients. Henrik, welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Diane Landry mentioned consumer survivor businesses. I worked at the Out of This World Cafe for a number of years, but that was years ago. But you know, if we needed a mental health day, take a day off work, that was great. And I think society should implement that for everybody. You know, you should get a certain amount of days for mental health every year. So I'm glad Diane Landry brought that up. Anyway, now this is called Mask of Sanity. I think a lot of people wear the mask of sanity when they go to work or school, and we don't like to admit it, but there's a lot of people who just wear a mask of sanity. Deep down inside, they're very tormented or depressed. Okay, here I go. I suffer from schizophrenia. I also suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. I have terrible obsessive thoughts and delusions. These two illnesses are a terrible combination. I do not, however, have classic schizophrenia, this being auditory or visual hallucinations. I am atypical in that regard. Nonetheless, I am on the schizophrenic spectrum. Every day I have to fight off my symptoms at least once a day. This is not always easy to do. I am, however, successful most of the time. Most days I wear the mask of sanity. An example of this in daily human interaction. Many people say hello and how are you? And we respond, hello, I'm fine, thanks. In reality, no one wants to know you're not well. We do this to be sociable and polite. In fact, there are some days I don't want to get out of bed. I don't feel well. I have to fight these feelings. And I usually get up anyway. I wear the mask of sanity. Needless to say, there are those who can't wear the mask of sanity. They being those suffering their first psychosis. They being those who have gone off their medication. Those being who have fallen through the cracks of the psychiatric system. Moreover, there are those who don't want to wear the mask of sanity. There are those who have had a very bad experience with psychiatry. They don't want medication or psychotherapy. In fact, some of them would rather suffer with their symptoms than trust in psychiatry. Regardless of your own mental health, there are two things to remember. First is the mask of sanity fits some people very well. Second, it doesn't fit some people well at all. The next time you pass by people on a busy street, remember there are those who are wearing the mask of sanity. Now, this next piece is a tribute to Ruth Stackhouse, who I had the privilege of working with for 14 years and who became a very trusted and loyal friend. So here I go. We have lost our illustrious leader. We have lost our compass. We have lost our anchor. Ruth Stackhouse was an amazing mentor, teacher, and collaborator. She taught me how to be a better actor and writer. She taught me how to work with different people. I'm a better human being because of that. Now we need to find a new leader. Now we have to reorientate our compass. Now we need to find a new anchor. Someone once said that art can't change the world. That's probably true. It can, however, like a mirror, reflect back to us things that we have never seen before. For that, I am forever grateful to Ruth for helping me to understand that. For the love of Ruth, then, let's continue this important work. MadPride isn't just for psychiatric survivors or the mentally ill. It is for everyone who wants to be healthy and well-adjusted. Let this tradition continue, and let us always remember Ruth. Thank you.
Well done, Henrik. Thank you. And I'll share the feedback with you after in direct chat, but you're getting a lot of applauses.
Oh, okay. Well,
well done, Henrik.
The Out of This World Cafe, I I learned to work with other psychiatric patients, which was a difficult lesson for me to learn, but I'm glad I was able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
You'd be a great resource for Danielle.
Yeah.
Because you'll have like ground knowledge of the experience of developing that business.
Well, I have experience in consumer survivor businesses, psychiatric theater with Friendly Spike, and I also sit on the board of Habitat Services. We look for housing for psychiatric patients, so I've seen it from 3 or 4 different angles.
Yeah. Well, thank you for what you shared with us. Appreciated listening.
Yeah. A lot of it, there's a lot of comments about Mask of Sanity. One of my favorite poems that Henrik has written, or pieces, I should say, both combination. Thank you, Henrik. Without further ado, I want to get to our final guest speaker, and then we'll get to the prize draw. And I do have a surprise video if you guys want to wait around for that. It is a clip of Ruth, 11 minutes, but I'll show that at the end after prize draw if people are interested in staying longer. So thank you for staying with us. I know this has gone a little bit past 9, but that's okay. Our final guest speaker of the evening is the one and only Shirley Gillette. She studied history and sociology at the University of Toronto. She has long been fighting to end all forms of violence against women and to create a more just and equitable world for everyone through her work in the collective Women Won't Forget, as an advocate for forced marriage survivors through the I Do Project, and through her writing, art, and theatrical performances. Tonight, she will bring together her love of history and her quest for justice. Thank you for your patience, Shirley. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I think we have matching hats somewhat. Anyway, I'm going to try and share my screen. I'm well aware of the time, and I have to leave shortly too. but I'm going to, if I can share my screen, I'll just touch on a little bit of what my presentation was going to be. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, it's there, and I've just got to get to slideshow. Okay. So I'm gonna give a very can everybody hear me?
Yeah, it should show on the screen, but
Everybody can see the PowerPoint?
we don't see the PowerPoint.
Can
Oh,
you
wait,
hear
it's
me?
it disappeared for me. So showing my screen, just a second. Let's see if it's gonna come back. I'm getting that little scrolling circle. Okay. Oh, well, looks like my mouse has lost its power. So, okay. Yeah, I probably can't do anything now except to shut it down. So,
I have an
or
idea, but if it's gonna be too much time, no worries. If you want to email it to me, I can share it for you if you'd like.
yeah, I did email it before we started.
Okay, let me pull it up here. Let's just do zoom over here. All right. Oh, perfect. Let's do it. I'm going to share my screen. Let me just do this. All righty. Start slideshow. Screen 1. How's that?
Perfect.
All right. Ready when you are. Hello? Is Shirley still with us? Sure. What? Are you guys hearing me? Is Shirley with us?
I'm hearing you.
I
I'm
hear
not
it.
hearing anything from Shirley.
All right. That being said,
I think we might have lost her.
I think something's going on. She might pop back in. Otherwise, we're gonna have to have an extended event another day because it's running on. Let's do the prize draw. Let's just get things shaken up here. And knowing Shirley's luck, she's gonna win the prize. So, all right. Is she back? Okay, when she comes back, we'll get right back to it. We've got 5 prizes this evening, 2 copies of the publication anthology we did, Quanos and Docent, 2 copies of I'm Mad, what Honey read this evening. And there also is a $100 gift card to Esso gas station. All right, so first prize I'm going to give away is going to be the Esso gas station card. Hopefully they're here. John Stackhouse. I don't think he's here. Moving on. Too bad, Johnny boy. All right. Oh, the whole Stackhouse family who's still not here. Okay, next. Richard Paul, who left early. We'll have to tell him. Boy, oh boy. Okay. Continuing on. Oh, Kathy Adachi is here. You just won a $100 gift card to Esso. Congratulations. I will be mailing that out to you next week. Sweet. All right, up next, publication Quanos and Docent. Daniela Violin, not here. Okay, moving on to the next. Tanya Val is here. Excellent. You're going to get a copy of Quanos and Docent. So cool. All right, let's write down your name here, Tanya. I'll be in touch. Second copy of that. Let's see. Marlene Charney. If she doesn't already have a copy, you're going to get another one that you can give to friends.
She does have a copy, Sarah.
You're going to get another one.
You can draw and give it to someone else.
Oh, okay. Moving on.
No problem. Thank you.
Elaine Stewart, who also brought has a copy.
Who also has a copy.
Yeah.
Another one? You're getting it anyways.
All right, I'll gift it to
Give it to
someone.
Dakota. That's her son. Okay, moving on to the copy of I Met Her. There we go. Tanya,
There's
you're
Shirley.
tonight. Congratulations, Tanya. And I'm going to send all these out next week, so I'll be in touch through email for addresses. Hi, Shirley. Welcome back. I'm just doing the prize draw. A few minutes here. One more draw. Is Preetha here this evening? Did she come, Tanya? Okay, well, she won. So you can let her know that. We can keep it as Preetha and send her one of the copies. I think it's a great idea. So there we go. We got all our winners this evening. Congratulations. And let's get right back to Shirley. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you so much.
And will Shirley stay this time?
Yeah, I got kicked off a couple of times there. So maybe this is my sign that we should go to Ruth's video. And maybe
Okay.
I'll share this when I have another opportunity.
Absolutely. I was just saying we should do an extended, tribute because this ran on longer than expected, which is fabulous. I mean, this is great news. So no problem, Shirley, if you want to stick around. If not, God bless you and thank you. We'll be in touch very soon. Yeah, I'm going to share a video of Ruth. It's pretty cool. It might have been her last in-person performance in 2021. Some of the work she shares reads. It's cool. It brought tears to my eyes when I was cruising through with this. So I like to say, get your tissue box ready. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my screen again. Thanks for sticking around, everyone. Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's get this fired up.
I remember this.
Yeah. A great performer, as you all know.
Yeah.
Ruth is the founder and director of the Friendly Spike Theater Band, a collective of performers, writers, musicians, etc., of varying abilities. Ruth, in my humble opinion, is a bright light. So here's your stool.
Thank you. I'm wondering if I could get an assistant to help me up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's such an honor to be here. Now, as a founder and a director of the Friendly Spike Theater Band, a mad disability people's theater in Toronto, I've had the privilege of working with many poets throughout the years to enrich and enliven our various plays and presentations, most of which are based on historical events, all of which strive toward social justice and cultural inclusion. For example, this first poem, written by none other than Honey Novik with our collective, was published in Not the Same Old Story, Alter Narratives of the Friendly Spike Theater Band. This is my story. It is a fact. I am real and I can act. All of us together are the Friendly Spike Theater Band. Pay attention, listen. We hope you understand. Singer-songwriter Catherine O'Donnell wrote a poem about a man who lived at the Toronto Hospital for the Insane, 999 Queen Street West. And his name was Winston O. And we featured Winston O in our play, Angels of 999. And Catherine's poem was put to a song, which was sung within the play. The wheels I carve go round this place. I know everyone by name and face. I whittle wood by the light of day. It seems to take my cares away. Sitting in an alcove in the dark, I play guitar made from a box. People seem to like it when I play. I'm glad to help in my own way. Like my old friend Joseph, that soul, he's gone, lost in the real world, like an orphan fawn, tossed alone wandering, no rules of the game, and no one knew his name. The world outside is bounding fast. Fancy changes, will they last? I took a trip to the CNE. Mighty big plans in this new century. When I was young, I built canals. Might have even had me a gal. That was long ago, and now my home is here, inside these walls. Like my old friend Joseph, that soul, he's gone. Lost in the real world, like an orphan fawn. Tossed alone wandering, no rules of the game, and no one knew his name. Our play, Mark Living with a Stigma, written by Ken Innes, features a song called The Pill Song, which takes a hard-line approach to Big Pharma. Dirty little dealers sitting in the boardroom, dishing out the filth to the pharmaceutical healers, healers, healers. I know a man, his name is Lily, Eli Lilly is his name. Hangs around the schoolyard pushing little pillies, might as well be crack cocaine. A pill, a pill, a pill for every ill. Every pill you take will take away your will. A pill, a pill, a pill for every ill. Every pill you take will take away your will. Siva is a man pushing Ritalin to kiddies, Ritalin is sure to dull the brain. Million little zombies sitting in the classroom, hooked on Ritalin, feeling no pain. A pill, a pill, a pill for every ill. Every pill you take will take away your will. A pill, a pill, a pill for every ill. Every pill you take will take away your will. Hoffman LaRoche used stunned a nation, handing out the Valium, just like a pervert does with candy. Fucked our minds with Librium. A pill, a pill, a pill for every ill. Every pill you take will take away your will. A pill, a pill, a pill for every ill. Every pill you take will take away your will. Smith, Klein, and French are three tough hombres. Chemical lobotomy is their fame. Pistol packing Thorazine to unsuspecting people. Couldn't give a damn about where they aim. A pill, a pill, a pill for every ill. Every pill you take will take away your will. A pill, a pill, a pill for every ill. Every pill you take will take away your will. Now, this next poem, written by Dawn White, an absolutely amazing social justice activist and actor who passed away recently, although his soul will live on forever, like Joe Hill. He will never die. And Dawn wrote a poem that was published in one of our theater programs about Edmund Hugh. Now, you may remember Edmund Hugh was a former medical student and a homeless psychiatric survivor who was shot and killed on the Spadina bus by Toronto police. And Dawn wrote, "My name is Edmund Wei Kong Yu. I tried and died fighting racist cops, fascist shrinks, classist landlords. I am your brother. I am your comrade. I am your spirit. So don't forget me." We won't forget you. We can't forget you. Now, Dawn's friend, the late great Mel Starkman, wrote this next poem, which was a through line for our production, The Walls Are Alive with the Sounds of Mad People, which is a lively tour around the patient-built wall at Queen and Shaw. Historical plaques surround the wall, telling the story of the patients who built it. And this is on the present grounds of CAMH, which used to be the Toronto Hospital for the Insane. And Mel's song, which I will recite as a poem now, went like this. "We are survivors departed, denizens of old 999. Off to work they had us carted, on starch food we dined. Of our own arduous making, from fields, barns, and stable, we gathered orders not forsaking, to the degree we were able. Men and women, we labored. As slaves for pay, there was none. Well, the government used us and savored, saving by the sweat of our brow. Moral therapy was in the air, as justification for being in prison. Never seemed quite fair. To this day, many of us can envision. The walls will not fall. A vestige still stands for all to see. These plaques to us to recall the dignity of you and me. The walls are alive with the sounds of the mad, whose incarceration makes them sad. We do honor them as family. Each rose, Isabella and Willie. Our play, The Girls of Grandview, includes a poem called Femicide. The Grandview Training School for Girls is a concentrated pool of poor, damaged, used, undervalued girls sucked into a whirlpool. Not part of the worldview, stinking dreadful cesspool. Blood blue, black blue, breathless blue. You took my hope, you took my faith, you took my love, you took my trust, and you thrust. But not like Jesus on a cross. You wrote me off at cost. Femicide, slow death ride. Cruel. Femicide, slow death ride. 40 years and on the rise. I've been dead more than alive. Now I'm going to close this presentation by quoting from two of our wonderful poets. The first, our dear friend Mel Starkman, and he wrote a poem about his experience with the Friendly Spike Theater Band. And one of the verses goes like this. The example of others as siblings has given me back my wings to sail again the sea and nurture this talent, so we. For I'm not too proud, you see, to own up to just a little P. And finally, a beautiful man by the name of Robert Norman shared his story with us for our play Mark, Living with a Stigma. And that story inspired Robert's song, which includes these important words. When you form a circle, no one is first, and no one is last. The good things that we do will make up for the hurts of the past.
Cool. And that's on YouTube, so everyone can find that when they want to rewatch it. It's so cool to see her live again, right? Thank you everyone for being here tonight. I don't want to keep you much longer. I know it's run pretty late. I just want to mention the in-person MadPride event tomorrow that's in conjunction with Park. I will share the flyer if you guys haven't seen it on our Instagram or our Facebook. I'll be there. I know Honey's going to be there. Henrik, Elaine, Hines. It's Hines' event, really. And I'll just share this briefly so you can see what's going on. It looks like this. It's on Queen Street. And yeah, it's with Parkdale Activity Recreational Center. And, you know, you can come and share something or listen or participate. And we'll be together there. If you can make it, that'd be awesome. So thank you so much for being here tonight and staying with us for the full ride here. I appreciate that. And I know Ruth, you know, gleaming down or around is also very thankful.
Put that flyer up again because you didn't have the time. It wasn't showing.
Yeah, sure. It's I believe it starts at 1:30 just here, and it goes till 4.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah, can you also share the link to that YouTube video if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'll do it right now. I can do it in the chat. Or you know what? It's Danielle speaking, correct? I'll send you an email of it. Is that okay?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll make note of that. And now, does anybody have any questions or open discussion time or something to share? Now's the time to do so. Otherwise, thank you for being here. But I'm going to stick around as long as everyone would like to. Kathy, did you want to share anything? I know you probably wanted to share a poem or something. You've got your hat on now. You look awesome.
Thank you. Well, I have a poem entitled Blank and Clear. You want to hear it?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay. Blank and clear. White sheet, white blank clear, looking back at me, waiting for the wisdom words to glide, slide off and out of my mind and slenderize and ride down in rivulets of thought with reflective, observant, inward, outward eyes, glancing in symbiotic dynamic. Yes, inward, outward, from brain, mind. Yes, in memory, jumping and hopping like a monkey from branch to branch, but then to categorize and give order out of chaotic jumbles. I sit myself waiting for the patterns of thought caught in web of memory to loosen and fight and find their ways out and down, down, down in kinetic joy from masses of gray to eyes of light, bright, brighter, seeing the red hearts of love on the receptive wall. And from there they travel to mouth, the thought words into runes of symbols to jump, express into fingers anticipating, as is the white virgin page. And voila, voici some truths of veracity and realness glide from my fingertips. Thank you, dear muse. Once again, I, great gratified, see my thoughts a jumble, create a breath, a breathing of honesty for my life, and thankful now my voice speaks. Thank you.
Kathy. Great being back. And congratulations on winning the gift card.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Was the yes someone?
Sarah, can you hear me?
Hi, Henrik. Yes.
I think you did we should all appreciate what you did tonight. You kept things going. I know we're pressed for time, but you got everybody in, and I think you deserve a round of applause.
Thank you, Henrik.
You hear me? Did you anyone hear me? Was my voice too low?
No, you sounded perfect, Kathy.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Ronnie.
I just couldn't get myself to say anything, but there was so much to say about Ruth and how she came to she rescued me out of several things, and she's always been, she was amazing, and I don't think we said enough about her, and I should have said something because she definitely had a big impact on my life.
Mm-hmm.
As a loving, caring person, more than I can ever express how much she loved people and cared for them, and even when she was lying in bed with oxygen, she was thinking about everyone else. She always kept in touch. And beautiful person, beautiful.
Thank you, Ronnie.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
Last night, I had a dream about Ruth. I can't tell you the dream, but she came in my dream, and I thought, when I woke up in the morning, I thought, it's Ruth's birthday today. Maybe that's why I dreamt she came into my dream. But I just wanted to share this picture I have.
Okay.
I put it on my phone if anybody can see it.
Okay.
It's the two of us when I came 3 years ago. I saw Ruth, And it was on her birthday. It was on her birthday on July 11th. I went to see her. And I shared it on Facebook as well.
Cool.
Reminding people.
Yeah, I think you showed this photo as well in the event for Love of Ruth back in February. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I did.
Thank you. That's cool. You said, of course, Ruth's going to come into your dream. She's a very powerful spirit.
She is very powerful.
Thank you. Aurora's tuning in from Vancouver Island. So she's there right now. Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can wrap it up. If anyone would like to add something, yes, Danya.
Yeah, I had a dream of Ruth a couple of times too. I didn't know today was her birthday. I had a dream about her. Yeah, I don't know if it was last night or the night before too.
This has happened to you several times. Like, remember, even in the past. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Cool. All right. Any other comments? Any comments for the featured guests? David's still here. Elaine is here. Honey is here. Thank you, Kathy. See your comment. So beautiful. Thank you.
Welcome.
And I'll be in touch with you, Kathy, about your address, where to send your prize, and for everyone else who won prizes as well. I'll be in touch, and I'll be mailing those out over the course of next week.
Is it $100 ESSO card?
Correct.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't drive myself, but I can give it to someone I know who has a car.
Cool. And to ask them to drive you somewhere.
Yeah. I want to get up to up north, so maybe I'll.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. They'll drive me.
Cool. Yeah, you look like you're going to go into the wilderness right now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to close it off now and sign out. I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. And we're obviously going to have another part 2 because I really want to hear Shirley's presentation and against women's for women's advocacy. And she's got a really cool project going on right now. So that'll be in the makings. So thank you so much, and I hope to see everyone in person tomorrow at Park. I think, is Heinz still here? He could chit chat a little bit, but I think he took off. So we'll see everyone tomorrow if you're local, and if not, thank you so much, and thank you, David and Deborah. Have an amazing evening, and we will see everyone next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Sarah.
Good night. Thanks, Henrik. Thanks, Tanya.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. That's right. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye.
Bye, Tanya.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, honey. Thank you.
Thank you, honey.
Bye.
Tomorrow. All righty. Down to the last ones, honey. Yes, thank you. All right, honey. Ciao for now. Okay, Henrik, talk soon. Talk soon, Kathy. I'll be in touch. And Richard, thank you for being here. Ciao for now.
Okay, bye-bye. Night-night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank
Have a
you
great
again.
night, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, ciao.